Back on Capitol Hill, a bipartisan group of senators is calling for additional money for child care workers and providers in the next phase of COVID-19 relief. In a letter to the leadership, Republican Senator Joni Ernst and 22 other senators write, even before COVID-19, one of the most common concerns we heard from parents, especially in rural areas, was the struggle to find child care. The COVID-19 pandemic is undoubtedly worsening the situation. Senator Joni Ernst joins me now from Capitol Hill to talk more about this. Senator, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tracy. I'm glad to be here.
I know that you point out in your letter that the CARES Act provided some money for child care providers. Why is this additional money so critical, and what would you like to see it used for?
Well, certainly, in the case of Iowa, we did receive an additional $32 million just for those child care providers. They're absolutely essential, especially if you look at the situation the pandemic has created, where a lot of parents still have to report to work. They're essential workers, and yet their children are not in school. And so there is an additional need for those child care providers to make sure that those kiddos are in a safe and environment where they're being watched and fed appropriately. So we feel that this additional money is vitally important to not only the welfare of the children, but the peace of mind as well for those parents that are those essential workers.
Senator, I know this issue of quality, affordable child care is deeply important to you, and you're also leading another bipartisan effort to secure additional funding for diaper assistance. How is this shortage and stockpiling of diapers affecting essential workers with young children when it comes to child care?
Absolutely. It is so hard right now, and 1 in 3 families has faced diaper need, and it is such a basic, essential element for any child, any baby. And so those that are stockpiling diapers, making it more difficult for others to receive those basic necessities, it just adds a lot of stress on those families that really need that support.
And I know that diaper prices were high even before the pandemic. Can you talk about that and the impact on lower income families?
Well, it is very difficult for those lower income families if they are looking at the cost of formula, if they're looking at the cost of diapers. It becomes increasingly difficult for those families, and that's why we do have assistance programs. But now during the pandemic, of course, they are struggling even more so to gain those necessary type items. And again, it is such an essential, such a basic item that most families don't have a lot of stress over, but certainly during the pandemic, for those that are lower wage earners, it is very stressful, and we certainly don't want to add to their complications or their situations. And so if we can work together in a bipartisan manner to add a little bit of relief, take away a little bit of that stress for those new moms and dads, we think it is the right thing to do.
Well, Senator, I know that you don't have much time, but I do have one last question for you. I know that you took part in last Friday's roundtable in Iowa with Vice President Pence and agriculture and food supply leaders. What additional support would you like to see for farmers and meat processors in the state?
Well, certainly, we want to get these meat packing facilities open, and that was part of our discussion with the Vice President last Friday with a number of industry leaders. And a huge part of that is actually the diagnostic testing, making sure that those workers are safe before they go back into those packing plants, making sure that they have the proper protective gear when they are entering those plants, making sure they have that physical distance between those workers. We certainly need those plants open so that our farmers are able to get their livestock into those facilities, and then from those facilities get that meat onto our kitchen tables. So vitally important that we make sure that those workers are protected, and in the end, everybody will benefit.
Well, Senator, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. Senator Joni Ernst, Republican from Iowa. Thank you again.
Thank you, Tracy.